Also, since the last time we recorded, I finally opened and set up my brand new Tears of the Kingdom
Oh,
Switch. It's really nice, dude. I got to give it
God,
up. They
that is
did awesome
beautiful.
on the design. I know
I
it's
want
really
a
nice.
SWOLED so bad because that screen is so nice, but I just cannot justify the cost because I haven't used my Switch in like 3 years.
It's a wild cost, and like I fully am buying this thing knowing that it's the dumbest purchase ever because they're going to announce something within the next 18 months. And it's funny because I think I had mentioned that to you, and then like 2 days later, we're also going to talk about this today. They formally, like, finally acknowledged their next console,
hmm
which one is crazy, but two confirmed that this was a big, yeah, they was a big waste because they literally waited for people to rack up the new Switch OLED Zelda
Yeah,
editions,
a couple of
and
collector's
then they were like,
editions, and
oh, but
then
by the way, we'll have a new one out in like 18
yeah.
months.
They always do that. I mean, they did that. God, I don't know if you were collecting 3DSs at the time, but they released like 30 of those freaking things, and I had like five of them at one point because I love them.
I didn't collect the 3DSs, but I was late to the 3DS game because
Hmm.
that was when I was in college, and that was probably the era when I was like most disconnected from the video game industry, was like college through like the first few years of me working
Yeah,
and
yeah.
professionally, besides Destiny 1. I feel like Destiny 1 was like
That's the working man's game.
that was I that game was, yeah, that had its hold on me for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I ended up getting mine kind of late, and I ended up getting a, what did I get? I got the like the purple Galaxy edition one. I still
Oh
have
yeah,
it too.
a
It's
classic.
beautiful. It's
Yeah,
gorgeous. I
really
love it
nice.
so much. Yeah. Um
It's funny, I was pissed about this for a long time because my favorite colors are blue and green. And for
yeah.
the 3DS, the new 3DS XL, they had in America, North America, they only had black and red, but there was a blue one, but they only had it in like Japan, Europe, and like some of the random other regions like Southeast Asia. And I was so mad because I wanted a blue new 3DS XL so bad that I wound up, the Southeast Asian region actually uses the same like region locking as North America. So I imported a new 3DS XL blue just to have it. And I have it right here in front of me. This gorgeous, gorgeous guy. And I mentioned that
Ooh.
because the Galaxy one that they had used the blue bodies, but they just had the Galaxy shells on them. And I always thought that was so silly. It's like, why not just release
Oh
the
wow.
damn blue ones?
Yeah,
You crazy
that is
company.
weird. That is
And then, of
super
course, after I
strange.
got it, I stopped playing it because the Switch was announced like 2 days later. So
Yeah.
2017. That's a
Yeah,
fun time.
that's super super strange.
Yeah, I don't know why they did that, but
Um
they're funny about their hardware stuff and their software stuff, and like I think how they follow market trends, and I don't think Nintendo does anything unless they're like pretty sure about it, especially when it comes to like profits and returns on stuff. So they're like, people in America only want like red and black, cool, like cool colors.
and cardboard.
Yeah, Nintendo Labo.
Labo. I should get Labo. It looks sick.
I almost did. I,
Um
I almost got it a few times because I thought about it, but then I didn't.
and we're gonna loop back around to Nintendo today. Like, I feel like we have
Yeah,
good
plenty
Nintendo
to
news
say.
and
Yeah,
bad Nintendo news.
good news about Nintendo
Yeah,
and
good news
bad
and
news about Nintendo, which
right.
is kind of how it always is with those
Yeah.
crazy kids over there.
So yeah, we'll get back to the Nintendo news, but I figured, actually this news came out today, which is cool. We'll start off. So we I think at the start of every month it would be really cool if we can go over like the what games are going to be coming out for the subscription services each month.
Yeah,
Um, it's weird though. I feel like PlayStation always announces they're super late, but the PlayStation Plus lineup this for the month of May came out. I thought we could maybe start on that since there's some really good stuff in there.
it's looking
So
good.
it's looking real
It's
good.
looking tasty.
May's PS Plus update is a good one. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, Dishonored 2, and more.
Yeah, like this is actually pretty nuts. I wonder how much of this was already decided and how much it might be like a response to maybe some stuff in the industry because like this is
This is
Like, this is a
really good.
good list. This is a good
And
list
I
of
gotta
stuff.
say, well. Let's go over some of the list. So,
Yeah.
for the highlights for me, and you can point out what some highlights for you were. We got Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, Watchdog Legion, Dishonored 2, Dishonored Death of the Outsider, Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, Rise of the Tomb Raider, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider, the full trilogy.
All of the
That's
Raiders.
awesome. All of the Tomb and all of the Raider.
All the tombs will be
That's
rated.
actually really nice. These
Yeah.
I'm gonna highlight these and then I'll like say a couple words on my favorites. Thymesia. Was there another one there? And Bus Simulator 21.
Dude, the best year, dude. You know, all the sim fans know.
All the hits. Well, last week we were
Yeah.
talking about. I think it was last week we were talking about. Because we're talking about Gran Turismo and like racing sim, and then we're
Oh,
talking
yeah,
about like Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Hmm.
Forget all of that. I'm gonna go. I'm skipping straight to, instead of the flying sim stick and the racing chair sim with
Just
the
get one of
driving
those
stick
big
sim.
wheels.
Yeah. I'm
Bus
getting.
wheels.
We should start that as a company. We should start that as a company, like
The horizontal bus
the,
wheel.
just a giant bus wheel controller with a massive stick shift next to.
Oh my god! And a real door that opens up so your friends can get in, sit
It's
next to
basically like
you.
a walk-in arcade cabinet that you play at like at Dave and Buster's,
David
but it's
Buster's. Yeah.
Bus Sim 22.
Wow.
I think there's a real opportunity there
There's
actually,
a
but
market there. I mean, people love simulators and people like hardware. So, like, you know, give the people what they want.
give the people what they want.
Give them what they want.
But Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, we both played. I think we both played this when it came out,
Oh
and
yeah, that's a good ass game.
I loved this game. I thought it
Hmm.
was so good.
It is one of the most solid exclusives on the PlayStation, I think, by far. Just
Yeah,
purely polished. Like, it's just a damn good piece of software. Really fun, great optimization, beautiful graphics,
and
great characters. Yeah.
it has this sequence it has this sequence when you walk into a nightclub, and I don't know if
Oh,
anyone like,
so fun.
it's like when it's that feeling, that sensation of when you walk into a bar or a club or a concert and you can feel the bass of the speakers through the walls, like going into
Hmm.
your bones. They program that. There's a sequence where you walk into a nightclub in the game and they program that into the DualSense, and with that kind of boom vibration coming through the controller and me having headphones on, I literally felt like I was in the nightclub. It was
Yeah,
insane.
yeah. It's really impressive. I think that's one of those things where, like, you know, the PlayStation has some really cool hardware features that, like, when they're taken advantage of by developers, are just so cool, and like little things that add immersion. And I think Rift Apart does great work with that. Like you said, the haptics, I don't like the triggers stuff too much, but they do cool stuff with it. Like the 3D audio, like, yeah,
Yeah.
that sequence was awesome. I played with headphones too at that point. It was just like
You're
you,
like,
you feel it, you
whoa.
hear it, you feel
Yeah.
it. Like, it's almost a full body experience. I just need one of those like haptic vests that you can put on that makes you go like, you know, and like
Yeah, it was
hits
so
you with
wild.
gunshots.
And it was
Yeah.
like just in my hands, but for some reason I like felt it in my whole body. I must have just been like a sensory thing with my brain.
Yeah, yeah. It is really interesting. I think I want to see more technology take advantage of that kind of thing, like the brain body connection, and you know what can immerse us that we don't realize can immerse us.
It was great. I never played Watch Dogs Legion because I was kind of tapped out on Watch Dogs after the first one, but
Yeah, same.
I've heard really good things about Legion. Actually, people seem
Yeah,
to
yeah.
love Legion.
I heard it was like a solid entry that nobody played because of the same reasons. Like, it's such a weird franchise. Like, the first one was very misleading, and then the second one was like, and then this one actually apparently was pretty ambitious and did some cool stuff. But I think people were like,
Yeah,
Watch Dogs,
And then super quickly, Dishonored 2 I never finished, so I would love to play that, but I know everyone loved
Mm-hmm.
Dishonored 2.
Mm-hmm.
To when Arcane was good at making games
Yeah,
apparently.
I think it's really solid. I am curious actually because they're putting it on here. Like, Dishonored 2 is a great game, but it had some really weird technical issues.
Interesting.
And even I played on PC, and like I had to do some weird brute force tweaking stuff to kind of get it to like play well at 60 FPS. And I think the PS4, PS5 version, whatever it is, there is still at like 30, which is a bummer. But hopefully they patch some of that stuff up. I'm not really sure, but
Yeah. Well, we'll see. But
yeah,
that now could finally be the time where I go in and play it. And then
yeah,
the
it's
Tomb
great.
Raider trilogy I never finished. I have to play the last one. But the first one, the Tomb Raider, like the reboot, that game really, like, it
What a
felt,
surprise hit!
it was one of the games where there's a sequence where you're first climbing up the side of a mountain, and I'll never forget. There's a portion of that platforming piece where you are the mountain or something is kind of collapsing, and it was like the first time in video game sequence where I remember the devs implemented something looking like it was going to hit you no matter what, and like it was programmatically timed to miss, but the way it was developed was, it felt like such a narrow escape that you were in control of.
Yeah, yeah.
And you like kind of were, but like not really. And I just remember it like blowing my mind. I remember when that game came out feeling like, whoa, like we're actually in the next gen. Like this looks amazing. It plays amazing. Kind of takes like Assassin's Creed's platforming and like elevates it. It was that game was really incredible.
Yeah, I agree. I think those reboots are so interesting because, like, I think it's unlike some other franchises. I think it's like a reboot that started so incredibly strong and then like kind of got a little bit worse every time.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
the second one's pretty good too. I think the
second
gameplay
one's really
is great.
good.
The story was a little weird, but I thought the gameplay was a lot of fun. I played a bit of the third. Everything I heard about it was like,
yeah, it seemed
so
like
great.
it was like 9 out of 10, 8.5 out of 10, like
7 out of 10.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
I want to play it just to at least round out the story.
Yeah,
But
see
I thought the
Laura's.
second one was really good. I
Yeah.
did think the second one was great.
I think
I
the
enjoyed it a
gameplay
lot.
was really good. They really refined it. Like visually, it was really cool. I thought like the kind of wintry, like where was that? It was like
Trapped in
Russia,
a
like
forest.
Eastern
Yeah,
Europe or something like that. Yeah,
you're like
it's very
trapped in
cool.
like a mountain forest. You're like stranded.
Yeah, and then I was about to spoil something big in the story, but I don't know if anyone hasn't
Yeah,
played it
no,
yet, so I'll wait.
keep the spoilers off. But
Yeah,
it's
but
great. It's great. So
there's some
this
funny historical stuff.
this is a hype month, and then Thymesia is something that's awesome. Like,
Yeah, you were playing that before.
I haven't finished it, but I was really enjoying it. It's kind of like a Souls like. It's kind of like halfway between a Souls like and like a Sekiro, where just because there's a parry focus, but it was really cool. I think it's, especially if it's you're gonna get it in your subscription.
Yeah,
I think it's totally worth it. It's huge.
I always wonder with stuff like this, like the industry, the market is so flooded these days that like getting your game noticed, I think, is really tough in general. So I wonder for something like this, like Thymesia, I don't know the size of the studio or anything, but I know it's like an indie game, for them to be like featured in this list of like, hey, free games this month on like PlayStation Plus. I wonder how much of a push that'll be for them to get more headlines, more interest, more money as a result of it. I'm curious what the kind of the trade-off there is.
Yeah, no,
Good for them regardless,
Yeah. And then one thing that we can look at as well, but this is a little bit of old news, but we can take a look at the Xbox updates this month. It's coming to Game Pass in 23.
Oh,
it's a little bit of old news. The biggest headliner of the bunch, which we all know how this is going now, is Redfall, which came out about 8 days ago.
Yeah.
But it is on Game Pass, and it is getting a lot of playtime. So I mean, hey, people are enjoying it. I think it's funny. I feel like I've talked to people who are, even with the bugs and performance issues and kind of just overall disappointing package from Arcane. I think people are still having a good time, which is great. And I think
people are finding joy in it.
It's funny. Someone described it to me as the best worst game ever made.
Which, like you're never gonna say it's like a great game, but you're like, yeah, it's like it's bad, but it's like I'm having fun with it,
But out of all the bad games, this is the best one.
Yeah, this is the one I'd recommend.
And hey, at least Arcane did that.
Yeah. At least they
they did that.
That's a success.
And then I know another big game, Amnesia.
I'm
series.
very excited for that.
Really? So I never played it because it's a little too. I don't do horror. But this is the one where this is the game series where you like lose your sanity if it's dark.
Yeah, sanity has always been a big mechanic in it, at least since the first one. I know it was for a bit. I didn't play the one they released before this, but I played the first two under the Amnesia kind of like anthology umbrella. I love them. I think they're really, really cool. I'm also, horror is tricky for me. So like they toe the line of like what I can do and what I can't, but like I enjoy horror video games more than I enjoy movies because I feel like with the games I have a little more like physically control over it. But they're really cool. They were a big spearhead of like horror games in general, especially in the indie scene. So the fact that they keep making these and like their budgets are getting a bit bigger, they're exploring new things, I think is really cool. This one looks really neat too. And it's on Game Pass, so hey, give it a
Yeah,
shot.
hey, it's on Game Pass.
Yeah.
And then some things leaving Game Pass. There's a few titles, nothing that I'm like super familiar with, honestly. Before we leave, Drag, Dang it,
Dang,
Dangan Rampa,
dang,
that Dangan Rampa,
not Dangan Rampa.
that Dangan Rampa 2. Hell yeah, brother! And then Hearts of Iron 4. I don't know what Hearts of Iron is, and oh, Her Story. Wait, Her Story is leaving? Her Story is the one that so
Oh,
Her
isn't that
Story
one of those like
her,
cinematic?
yes, it's the one of those games where you have all the video clips and you have to piece them together.
Yeah, yeah.
I actually feel like this was
didn't that win some awards? I think.
yeah, no, it's a very successful video game. It's super cool. I'm pretty sure it actually popped off on mobile originally. And then
Yeah,
they
I
brought
see,
it
yeah.
to
iOS, OS X, Windows, Android. Oh, interesting. Is it's only on PC Game Pass?
yeah, I guess it's only on PC Game Pass. But then there's
Wow.
the developer ended up making another one more recently where it's about like you're like an actress who was murdered, or you're investigating an actress who was murdered, and you're trying to
Yeah.
piece together the murder, and you have to go through like dozens of hours of like video, and like you can click on any face. I think it's the same in Her Story.
Yeah, I
You
remember.
can
I can't remember the name of what you're talking about, but I remember that too.
I don't know why I can't remember the
It's like
name.
Erica something. I thought like Erica's story, something like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. It looks like the same developer had one called Telling Lies, but I don't think that's
Mm.
actually it.
It's a cool
But
concept, like
it's a really cool
branching.
concept.
Yeah, film and video games and interactive media that way. I think is really cool.
It's a really cool concept, but it's not one that was clicking for me.
Hmm.
I tried to play Her Story, and I tried to play the second one that is about like the actress who was killed.
Yeah,
But it's just I don't know. It's like
I
just
got to be
sitting
in the
there
mood
clicking
for
through
something like
videos and
that.
having to
Yeah.
watch the video click after click. It
Hmm.
just kind of just like I was getting sleepy, a little sleepy every time I sat down to play it.
Yeah, I feel like I need something to kind of like break it up between that, where it's like, oh, okay, now I watched a bunch of stuff, and now I'm like playing, and we're in first person mode, and we're like doing some stuff, and then we go back because it's like, yeah, it's an interesting concept. Like I think that sort of thing appeals to people who enjoy interactive mediums like games potentially, but find like actually playing it to be kind of like overwhelming or not really their cup of tea. So it's cool to be like you're interacting with something still.
Yeah,
Opens it to more
100%.
people.
And then My Friend Pedro, which I never got to play actually,
Rest in
but
peace.
honestly, I love Devolver so much. I wouldn't even be surprised if I own it already. I probably own it on Steam or
My
something. I
friend Pedro Pascal.
My friend Pedro Pascal. My friend Pedro is it's a 2D side to side where you're just like a banana, and
Just like real
it
life.
has almost like that those stuntman physics, kind of like stickman physics, where you're kind of just
Yeah, it's
like
like stick fighter kind of stuff.
yeah, like stick fighter kind of thing. It looks really cool, and I
I
know
have it in my Steam library. I've had it in there for I couldn't even tell you how long.
I
I'm very
just
curious if I can play
Devolver will drop bundles on Steam every once in a while, and I just buy them because I love
it.
Devolver, and
You just wind up with
I
yeah.
think they deserve all the money. They're great. I adore them. But all right, let's revert back to Nintendo. So that's enough Xbox and PlayStation.
Oh yeah, here we go. Let's get to the good stuff. Everybody's favorite company.
So we got some good news from Nintendo this week, but also some bad news. Which one do you want first?
Hit me with the bad news, Doctor.
The bad news first. So the bad news for Nintendo is that Nintendo has been on a goddamn tirade this week.
Mm.
They started about a week or two ago by DMCAing a bunch of Nintendo YouTubers and Twitch streamers who were mostly posting vids of modded versions of Breath of the Wild, and they copyright striked a couple, like Point Crow was the big one,
Hmm.
but they copyright striked his channel in such a way that they essentially, if you have 3 strikes, your channel can be deleted, and they essentially gave him 2 strikes as a
Yeah.
warning shot to say your channel is literally in our hands. We
Hmm.
can have your channel deleted at any time.
Yeah.
And when you look at what he did, what his content was, it's all within like the fair use of Nintendo's own terms
Yeah.
of service. Um, so it's really crazy. It's really nuts. I've watched a couple videos of him, and he basically said that he's probably not even gonna. He's questioned even streaming Tears of the Kingdom because he's
I would be concerned as well. I really would. Like, you have no that person has no reason not to be worried. Like, two
yeah
strikes out of nowhere for no reason. Like, I would be waiting for the other shoe to drop. There's a sword hanging above your head at that point.
yeah it's super scary. So I don't blame him. But Nintendo's now moved on to going after people who are kind of promoting any kind of emulation. And it's really interesting because something that I read in this article here was that once, so when the Tears of the Kingdom began leaking online, Nintendo, it seems like they kind of snapped and they started to go into any media that had the leaks. They started taking down everything they could across the internet, including Discord servers that hosted private, kind of private Discord servers that had any kind of media. It's actually kind of crazy that they were even able to get in and find that anything pirated, they found and they scrubbed clean. But one thing that was really interesting was that they even went on to GitHub, and on GitHub they were able to put out DMCA strikes against code that was being used to. I think one was called Lockpick. So Lockpick is an essential part of the Switch emulation process, allowing users to dump their console's unique encryption keys to their PCs to play ROM dumps of Switch games on emulators. While emulation in general is often associated with piracy, some enthusiasts make use of it to simply play games they already own on their higher spec machines, or with mods or other gameplay enhancing hacks. So basically, Lockpick sounded like it would take the authentication part of your console, like the way your console would interact with the software, to say, hey, here's my hardware's key, please let me into the software. Sounds like Lockpick would allow you to transfer that key over to your PC.
Sorry, the headline on the page there is the video there said, "Man arrested after beating neighbor to death with a bag of Pokemon cards."
I actually did see that story earlier. God, too. I didn't bother clicking on it.
Sorry, I got distracted by that.
No, I guarantee you that dude lives in Florida.
Oh, 100%. That is a Florida man thing to do.
That is a Florida man killing. But essentially, it sounds like Lockpick allows you to like transfer over your hardware key of your Nintendo Switch to your PC so that you can just run the software on your PC. But so it seems like GitHub, or it seems like Nintendo even struck that down. This tweet from the dude who I guess created this software tweeted, Nintendo has just issued multiple DMCA takedown requests to GitHub, including for Lockpick, the tool for dumping keys from your own Switch, which is absolutely ludicrous. Pirates aren't going to be sourcing keys from their own consoles. So they're going really hard. I think they're pissed. I think they're really pissed that people leaked Tears. I don't blame them for that at all. I think there's a little bit of Nintendo just lacks nuance with these types of things.
Yeah.
Like there's really no reason why they should go after something like Lockpick.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny that, this stuff is making the news again, because there was a period of time there where Nintendo was actually being pretty chill about this kind of thing. But this really is in many ways like actually a return to form for them being really kind of weirdly out of touch and protective of this sort of thing. Like, it's very much their MO, like since the 80s, for them to be very protective of like piracy, IP theft, all that sort of thing. But like, I don't know if you remember, but like back in 2014, 2015 ish, like when the Wii U was still kind of like the current console, and people were trying to make content on YouTube, like, Mario Kart, Smash content. Nintendo actually like forbid basically any content for a while being made of their stuff. And then they finally made like a partnership program where like you had to literally like sign a contract with them about like what kind of gameplay of their stuff you could show on your channel. And it's like this weird sense of like, if you're not playing or presenting our games exactly as we intended, then you are a criminal essentially. You are breaking the rules, and that's like completely unacceptable. Which in a
Yeah,
world where so many games are like become popular and maintain popularity because of content creation, like is such a weird antiquated way to be. But that's just kind of there. It feels like they're kind of going back that way now with the Switch being so successful. I feel like they're kind of clamping down on their IPs again, and how their games are presented. Especially for a big release like this, seeing it get leaked, I'm sure they're like, they want this game, Tears of the Kingdom, to be seen, played, and experienced exactly the way that they want. And
it was
anything,
intended.
yeah, anything outside of that, even if it's someone literally just like streaming the game in a way that makes them uncomfortable, like they will like lock it down.
Yeah, and it almost seemed, you saying that makes me think that them going after something like lockpick, trying to take
Mm-hmm.
away the tools for people to legally access the software that they've purchased
Mm-hmm.
and use the hardware that they've purchased to play it in a specific way that they want to play legally. It seems like them going after those tools is a way for them to preemptively keep Tears of the Kingdom emulations and mods off of keep Tears of the Kingdom
Yeah,
emulation
yeah,
and mods content off of the internet before it can even be created.
yeah. Keep it. I'm trying to think of the word, like the sanctity, kind of like, the what I mean, like keeping it as locked down as possible, so that like it's just not, nothing is broken, nothing is twisted around. Like it's funny that they're going these DMCA's and like software creators and stuff too, because there was a few years ago as well, like that wacky Nintendo, like there were leaked documents that showed that they literally, like when people were making like 3DS homebrew stuff,
Yeah.
Nintendo literally sent like agents to these people's homes and like staked them out, and
Dude,
like
that's like some inscription shit.
literally it's like Nintendo agents were literally outside, like
That's fucking that's Game
you
Funa.
can Google this, like it's actually literally happened in real life. Like they went to these people's homes and like waited outside and like tried to get in touch with them, being like, like it would be best if you stopped, making these things, like that kind of stuff. It's like
When was that?
they're crazy.
That's
um
insane.
2 years ago, I'm on a Reddit thread here. Leaked Nintendo documents show the company privately investigated homebrew developers, surveilled their home, and intimidated them. And that's a link to documents on Twitter. I remember this did break about 2 years ago, and it's pretty wild. If you Google like Nintendo agents, what did I say? Nintendo sent agents to house. That's what I Googled.
Here we go. Wait, I got. Oh, hold on. Everything I can find is just like a
Memes about Nintendo
like a
ninjas.
Reddit
Yeah,
thread.
yeah.
Let me see if I can.
Yeah, I remember like looking through the documents where there was like like Nintendo legal being like, like we think it's best if we, proceed with the act of increasing, pressure to stop, and then it's like, here so and so's address, like
That's so insane. That's really scary. I can't
yeah,
find anything like super legit, but if I do, we'll bring it up next time. I see
yeah,
some stuff on Twitter and everything, but it's like really crazy. That's like scary
yeah.
as
I mean,
hell.
it's that's the thing. Like I said, they have always they've really always been this way. There's only been like occasional lulls in their
Right. Where they're
enforcement of
yeah.
their particular, opinions on piracy and emulation even. And it's like, it's such a gray area. Like I think emulation is one of the best things in the industry. It protects art, and it maintains and preserves it. But if you're in the area of like emulating and sharing things that are currently being sold, obviously that's illegal and you shouldn't do it. But like
Right. For
their
people to
opinions on,
play with the software that they've legally purchased
yeah,
and manipulate the files in ways that is legal and they're not profiting off of, to take those tools away from them is kind of asinine.
yeah, it's very strange. Like again, those are the things that like allow people to continue the Nintendo. I have a hot take here. I think Nintendo is as popular as it is today still because of those classic games and the way that people were able to preserve them and continue playing them and continue enjoying them. Like the most emulated things are Nintendo games, probably. If there's a statistic for that, like if it weren't for people like loving and revisiting those games very easily, like, from the 90s on, like I don't think they would still be as popular as they are. And they've
No,
always fought against that.
100%. And even Breath of the Wild, it's maintained relevancy because people are able to breathe new life into it.
Yeah, make
No pun
wacky
intended.
content. Yeah.
But seriously, they're able to breathe new life into this game. People have been draining content out of Breath of the Wild since the day it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same reason why Grand Theft Auto is so popular on Twitch. It's like consistently one of the top 3 games on Twitch, viewed
Mm-hmm.
games. And it's because people do roleplay servers. They do role-playing servers that are like private servers, and they're essentially modded versions of the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a, and you know, and GTA Rockstar, they're not shutting that down.
Yeah.
Because it's all free marketing for them.
Modding games is like, I'm always actually shocked when I see like very hot takes about this, like from what I would consider to be the other stance on it. Because like I think of modding as being one of the most endemic things to the gaming industry. Like people have been modding their games since the 80s, since the 90s, you know, on with PC stuff, Doom wads, and you know, all sorts of stuff like that. And the companies that have encouraged that, or at the very least said, you know, we know it's going to happen, so we're just, here's some tools, or just like, hey, don't do anything too illegal, and you know, go for it. And that has been,
don't profit off of it.
Yeah, try not to profit off of it, and like, you know, if you do, cut us in, you know, various things like that. And like there are some people who, you know, developers or otherwise, who have this opinion of like modding is like a bad thing to do. It's like an evil thing where you're basically like twisting someone's art in an unexpected way. And like I get that, but it's like, it's software, man. Like this is, people have been doing this since computers existed. Like I don't know. It's I think it's like making a pastiche of someone else's work within their engine and all this sort of stuff is like one of the biggest flatteries I think you can do, in my opinion. But I'm also not 100%. A game developer.
That's why people say Nintendo hates their fans. And it's also, the biggest thing is it's legal. It's legal and it's within the terms that Nintendo themselves have given to the people who buy the software. Mm-hmm. It's in the license that you purchase. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's
a much smaller scale, but I don't know if you saw this as well. Alana Pierce, who's awesome, I love her. She tweeted a couple of days ago. Actually, maybe it was just yesterday or 2 days ago. She said, "LOL, my Twitch just got suspended midstream because I was reacting to @SkillUp YouTube's Zelda preview video." And then she followed up saying, "It would appear." She said, "It would appear that Nintendo DMCA'd me for watching approved Zelda gameplay." LMAO.
That's the thing. That's what I mean. It's like they're so inconsistent. Like, what is okay? What isn't Nintendo? We can't live like this.
And the craziest thing is that she was in the just chatting category on Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't in like the Zelda category.
Yeah,
like Nintendo.
Maybe that was the problem. Like they were like, oh no, if you're doing it, like it has to be like, you know, explicitly.
I think they're just on a warpath. I bet they were just searching for. It might even had like some kind of bot scraping for imagery of the game.
Yeah, any kind of thumbnails, right?
And if it acknowledged any of it, it just auto reported it or told someone at Nintendo like, hey, this channel has imagery of the game up, and they just shut it down.
This kind of
they're probably on their toes with the leak.
Yeah, I mean that's something to consider as well. Like they know that there is potentially, you know, there is leaked stuff out there. So I guess better to be overly aggressive in taking anything down, even if it is something that they approve themselves. It's just you know, it goes in line with their previous behavior and kind of like the streak that they've been on in general. So it's just it's wild. You know, they have the power to do that too. They're such an influential company. It's like, you know, Disney does the same thing. Like the big kind of like creative giants kind of have the ability to do this sort of thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get to the good news for Nintendo.
Oh yeah, I forgot there was some. Let's hear it.
Good news.
Now they got that out of the way. Dr. Cure Me.
That Nintendo has finally acknowledged their next console.
Hey.
It's huge. They've acknowledged that. I took some notes. They acknowledged that essentially the console is in development and that things are well underway, but they also said that don't expect anything, I think even in terms of announcements, up until at least until spring 2024. So about a year from now. Don't expect anything until then. And if I had to bet, I would say that's probably just an announcement. They also did say that they were going to release this console much closer to the announcement than they did with the Switch. Kind of pulling a Beyonce there with the with the surprise drop. But so this article says the next Nintendo console won't be coming out this year, according to newly surfaced reports citing sources close to the Japanese gaming giant. A number of industry watchers and insiders recently suggested that the Switch 2 announcement could be coming soon, which, like, LOL, that's people who try to leak Nintendo stuff, they're always wrong. I actually do have to give it up for Nintendo in that sense, which is kind of a surprise or kind of a shock as to why. It's kind of a shock that Tears did leak, because I feel like Nintendo generally has a pretty tight ship.
Yeah.
And then though the Switch is one of the best selling consoles of all time, Nintendo's hit hybrid system is over 6 years old. Blah blah blah. Yeah. But yeah, no, this is really exciting.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's funny to be excited about them, like, acknowledging that they're making it, because, like, we know they're gonna make they will make another console again in history, but it's like they're so tight-lipped about anything that even them saying, like, yes, we are and we will make a console and it is coming, like,
it's on its way. Everyone
monumental. It's so monumental.
What are some of the things you want to see out of a new Nintendo console? What are you hoping for? What's on your wish list?
It's an interesting question. I think in the past I might have given you a different answer before pre-Switch. I mean, because to me, Nintendo for so many years there was doing, like, some pretty wacky and interesting things with, like, hardware, separating themselves from the competition by just interesting things like the Wiimote.
The Wiimote, dude. There's a reason why everyone looks back at Wii Sports like the greatest thing ever invented.
Tears in their eyes of joy, not of sadness. Like they did really cool stuff like that. So I might have said something more wacky with the hardware, but I think honestly, like, they've found something so remarkable in the hybrid console. I love Nintendo handhelds. I grew up with them. I've always loved them. I think that was, like, in many ways I like them more than their home consoles, but I always said for so many years, like, man, I'm playing these amazing, like, DS games, these Game Boy games, these 3DS games. Like, I wish I could put them on the TV. I wish I could make them bigger and brighter without losing that portability. And boom, and then they released the Switch, and that, like, blew my mind. So for me, if they were to move away from that hybrid model for immediately in whatever their next generation of consoles is, I would be very sad, and I think that would be a terrible decision on their part. I want to see just a Switch 2, man. Like, I want to see something with, like, the exact same niche that it's filling right now, just with better hardware, and just, grow the software, grow the systems, the stuff you can do with it.
100%.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Because, like, the hybrid thing they've got here is, like, no one else is doing it. There's some handheld PC stuff like the Steam Deck. Asus has a couple of things out there, like,
and the Rogue Ally.
And the Rogue Ally.
The Rogue Ally actually looks awesome. It really does. Yeah, it actually does look great.
That market's blowing up now too, I think, because of the popularity of the Switch. And, like, as much as I love my Steam Deck, it does not have, like, the locked down seamlessness of the Switch. Like the Switch, you drop it into the dock, you pull it out, you put it in sleep, you wake it up, everything works 100%. And that is such a powerful thing for the quality of their software, like the games that they put out. Like, just give me a stronger platform to play them on. Push that tech forward.
100%. And it's one of the reasons why, like, I held off so long getting an OLED, because it's really besides the screen, there's no upgrade there. There's no upgrade.
Yeah. Fundamentally, it's the same thing.
I agree. Like, I think I want the same exact things. I really don't want them to take a big swing on anything.
This is not the time.
I know big swings from Nintendo, they can lead to, like, generational failure, but then future generational success. Like the Wii U, everyone says was the Switch beta.
The training wheels, for the
training wheels for the Switch. And I just agree with you. I think it would be a big shame to give up the portability that we've been given. I'm leaving for a wedding on Friday. I have to be on a 3-hour flight. That's the day Tears of the Kingdom comes out. The fact that I can take this thing with me and play Tears of the Kingdom on the plane for 3 hours, and then in every moment I have in the hotel room that I'm not doing wedding activities or being with friends, is the most beautiful concept on earth. I went international last year. I went to the Dominican Republic with 3 other friends. We all sat in the same row. We all had our own Switch. We played Smash Bros locally on the plane.
Yeah.
Do you
It's
know how
pretty nuts.
it's awesome. It's so cool. So I agree. I think if they do anything that's going to be like, I think down the line, if they are going to take a big swing, I think the Switch will have to have full product line support in the same way that the DS had full product line support in conjunction with um, the the Wii and the Wii
Hmm.
U.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't think they I think this is they don't have two product lines for the first time in a long time, aka like the Game Boy and then whatever console
The
was running,
handheld and the
the
console.
handheld
Yeah,
and the console, because they found a way to merge both. So I
yeah,
think if they are going to eventually switch back to a console line, a pure home based console line, I think that the Switch will have to be its own product line that still continues on and lives on its own, because I
yeah,
can't see them dropping it. And I think if they did, it would be a massive mistake,
yeah,
because mobility and mobile in general is the future for everything
for
probably.
sure. Yeah,
So I think us having powerful hardware, like you said, this Steam Deck, Rogue Ally, these things, they're going to keep us off of our sinful. They're going to keep us apart from our sinful phones being our main way to play things, which I think for a while was a terrifying future. And now that we have,
God, I was so nervous about that.
yeah, yeah, we had like everyone wanted to make everything mobile for a minute.
Yeah, it's like it's the future, man. Like there will be no more consoles.
No
Like Nintendo's
buttons.
only gonna make games for phones now.
Your whole gamepad will be on the screen. You can do
Oh
it.
my
It's like
god. Oh, I
so
hate that.
so.
I hate touchscreen
It's
controls.
so the fact that we have these handheld consoles is huge, and I can't see them abandoning. I hope they don't. I hope they don't. I
Yeah.
just want 60 frames, man. Nintendo, just give me 60 frames. You can even keep it at 720. Okay, I'll even let you have the 720. Just give me the 60 frames.
Yeah, just push it forward a little bit, please. Just a
Just a
crumb of
little.
frame rate.
Please, sir, can I have one more frame, sir? But yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what Nintendo's got. I'm excited. I think they're on the right track. Hopefully, OLED was a bit of a bummer. I think COVID might have had something to do with that. I kind of feel like if COVID hadn't happened, we'd probably have like a Switch Pro or something.
I wonder.
But what are you gonna do?
Yeah,
Um,
they were affected pretty badly by COVID stuff too, because
yeah,
they could not figure out that switch to remote. Just infrastructure stuff, Japanese work culture. Like apparently it was a nightmare. But I think they're kind of getting
yeah,
back on it now.
yeah. Kind of feels like 2023 is the year for games to be back. So
Dude, video games
hopefully
are here, baby.
they are here.
They're
They're
here and they're
also
not leaving.
they're here, and they're also joining the Olympics. So a really funny headline from this week. Olympic esports tournament adds Fortnite, but not any Fortnite mode you've seen before.
This is so
Have,
wacky.
dude, it's so funny. Um, in March, the International Olympic Committee announced that it was getting into esports. It's not adding video games to the Olympics, but it is running a global virtual and simulated sports competition this year called the Olympic Esports Series 2023. The tournament got a light roasting on social media when its game roster was initially announced, because rather than choosing big esports games like League of Legends or Counter Strike, the IOC picked analogs of traditional sports, including WBCS Baseball Power Pros and mobile game Tennis Clash.
So funny.
The most esportsy game in the mix was Gran Turismo, followed arguably by Chess.com. This week, the IOC announced that it's adding Fortnite to the esports series lineup. And if you're thinking, all right, it might not be my first choice, but it is a game people play with in an esports context, hold up, because there's more. The competitors in the Olympic esports series aren't going to play Fortnite's regular Battle Royale mode. They're going to drop into a International Shooting Sport Federation island in Fortnite creative mode, where they'll be tested on their range aiming accuracy, just as a sports shooter would in competition. Dude, this
It's
is so weird.
it's so funny. It's the most like they're like so close to getting it, but it's like just enough of like the fellow kids kind of thing where it's just like, oh yeah, like we're the kid. They've got the video games. Like they play tennis on their phones. Like that'll be
They're
cool.
it's like they're taking sport, the e-sport, they're taking sport too literally.
Literally, they're taking it literally
Like,
at
oh yeah,
esports.
that Fortnite game, but let's put them in a shooting range, a shooting gallery, and have them shoot. They're gonna. I won't be shocked if they have like a pole What is it called? Like
Yeah.
where you shoot the clay pigeons. They're gonna have them shooting clay pigeons in Fortnite. You know
I
what? Just take Fortnite out of it. Put Duck Hunt in there. Honestly, because I feel like that's
Yeah, at least there you
what you
shoot the
want.
TV. You actually use a gun. It's like it sounds like they oh sorry, I'm getting some my doggo is barking in the background. Let me put on oh, I don't know if that's coming through. Can you hear him?
A little bit, yeah,
All right.
but it's okay.
Um it that this seems to me like they
He
googled.
just has thoughts on Fortnite.
Yeah, he heard us talking about Fortnite and he was like, "Woo,"
He heard
or
Duck
Duck
Hunt.
Hunt because he
Yeah.
kind of looks like the Duck Hunt dog actually. It's like they googled like like they went through a list of sports and googled like most popular game of that, and that's like what they went with. Like I've never heard of this tennis mobile game, but it's probably the most popular tennis game video game in the world. And
Yeah.
that was just like the top thing. Like, oh, this is like the most played baseball game. I'm shocked they don't have like Madden 2022 on there.
Yeah, me too. It's weird. I think eventually the tide will turn, but it's just funny that they like wanted to make it as traditional sport as possible, just digital. I
Yeah,
won't be surprised if they do something like hire Facebook to make like a metaverse VR or like AR Olympic ring where they just
something
do all of
eventually.
these
Yeah.
sports digitally because it seems like that's what their intention is.
Hmm.
Like they want to just do they should just have everyone play Mario Sonic Olympic at the Olympics because that's closer to what they want,
I thought you
honestly.
were gonna say they should just have everybody play Mario, just Mario Odyssey or something.
Mario Odyssey, and Sonic Frontiers speedrun. Nah, they should have everyone do Mario and Sonic at the Olympics because that's
Yeah.
clearly what they want.
Where's the speed run section at the Olympics?
I know, right, dude? Get me in that Sekiro category. Let's go.
Yeah, there you go. I guess the speed running at the Olympics is the literal running categories, but
And then we got two more big things I want to cover at least, two or three, but one of the big ones, and this was a really interesting article that came out last week that I thought it was like interesting when I first looked at it, but then when I read into it more, it's actually like pretty fascinating, and I think it's a really good look at just kind of like the corporate greed we're seeing from especially the big publishers.
hmm.
So last week it came out that EA essentially was setting up a revenue sharing system with all of their esports teams for Apex Legends. But the deal reportedly broke down. This was in the fall of last year, around September 2022. But it came out about last week. Details around the collapsed revenue sharing, details around they were going to additionally add all of their esports teams for Apex. We're gonna have like skins in the game for the guns, for the characters, additional cosmetics, all of those things. Which I think you see that in like Overwatch
Hmm.
and like Valorant and like all of these uh, esports based games, right, where they have all their teams have representation in the games. You can rock those colors if you want. Um, but some of the really interesting details that came out of this was that essentially the esports teams for Apex Legends, they wanted to have a revenue sharing service, and these were organizations like Team Liquid, G2 Esports, Cloud9, some like really big names, and
The
even
old
see these
standards, yeah.
names, FaZe, like you even see these names in like Smash Bros. You see them everywhere. But they essentially the big esports teams, they wanted to have a revenue sharing system with EA, which from my understanding, it's pretty standard to have like a 30% split on the income so that the esports teams would take home about 30% or 50%. And EA had just like no interest in doing any of that.
Hmm.
EA essentially offered each esports teams a flat $60,000 licensing fee for using their likeness in the game, which is pretty laughable.
Yeah.
It's pretty disgusting. And apparently, like a lot of these teams can make around $1 million pretty easily from like any kind of like sponsorship that they do. So then when the team, when they got that offer, they said, no, we really want a revenue share and we want a 50-50 split for all of the purchases around our teams. EA came back and they said, absolutely not. But they offered up a return. Their counter to that was essentially they wanted to do kind of like a bounty system where the top three teams who sold would get $160,000 each, the next three $120,000, the next six $80,000, and the bottom 8 teams would get that 60,000, which is again insane.
Still pretty laughable.
It's pretty laughable.
The amount of money that's falling around with this sort of stuff, like that is a laughable amount.
Exactly. And apparently since last September, just September 2022, a couple months ago, 5 major teams have just dropped their rosters entirely. Which I think has a lot to do with this, not like seeing money, right? Like they don't have a way to like fund these teams. And EA, the publisher, like seems like they have just very little interest in keeping their esports side of this game afloat unless it's going to be extremely profitable for them. There's a really interesting quote in here where one of the team executives essentially says, I'll just read the quote. He says, "So EA and Respawn are like, okay, if we make 100 million from this bundle, we're giving 20 million to the teams. We don't feel like the teams are going to bring 20 million in sales," said one team executive. From a P&L standpoint, sure, maybe that's the case, but that's the problem with them being EA. Other developers would say maybe the teams are not going to push the sales 20% more than what it would have been, but these teams invest in our ecosystem. They do free marketing for us, with them being in an esports program. Respawn and EA don't think like that. If you look at the FIFA stuff, which has all the pay to win ultimate team mode and loot box mechanisms, which has led to past bans in Netherlands and Belgium, they're just revenue focused. They don't care about marketing and stuff like that. They want everything in the green no matter what it is, which I think is like just such a good look at how most of these publisher developers are looking. Most of the publishers are just looking at games and the money that they can make off of them. It's like
it really is wild, like especially for EA, which is gone back and forth from having the reputation of the worst of the worst to being like, oh, maybe not terrible, to being like, they've always been kind of the corporate bad guy in the industry. And it's like, it's so wild to them to basically look at like, well, we've got FIFA making billions of dollars, so like why would we do
this for exactly.
why
would we do anything
like,
different?
And it's like, you're not thinking about like, FIFA is FIFA, it's soccer, it's football, it's like it's like the world's biggest sport. Of course it's always going to be profitable. Like, you don't have to do this stuff. But it's like with esports, it's like a growing and like pretty sensitive industry. Like there's things are always shifting and flowing, and like that kind of brand recognition is hard fought, hard won. It's not easy to get that. And these teams, these personalities are the people that push that forward. And like it's tough. Like the whole esports in general is so tough. Like trying to find a market for a game before it might necessarily even be out, versus like trying to get that popularity going. It's like this is the kind of thing it needs to for anyone to make any money in it. And them being so hesitant about it is just it's so funny to me. They're just like, no, like why would we spend like $100,000 when like FIFA's making billions? Like,
and I think it's really sad that like a lot of the publishers, they don't give a shit about the esports culture around the games, which have like really dedicated communities. It's really sad because like, and they only give a shit about the profit. They could care less about the culture that they create. And that's what a lot of these publishers, that's whether they want to be or not, they're massive contributors to culture and create communities. When they could release one game, it'll create an entirely new community. And I think for comparison, this article mentioned that things like Riot Games, they actually have a revenue sharing system, but they also have a yearly stipend for each official Valorant pro team that's involved in their system. They each get a 600,000 yearly stipend, and then they have a 50-50 revenue sharing on all of the things that
that's pretty damn good.
Towards. Yeah, it's great. And then ESL Pro, which is Counter-Strike, they have a 25% revenue sharing, which is like it's still revenue sharing. That's a lot of money, constant stream of income. I guarantee you that blows away the 60K.
Yeah,
and for a bigger company as EA to offer such a low number, it's like it's fucked up.
Yeah, it really is. And even saying like Apex esports stuff feels kind of weird, because like Apex is a very popular game. Like people love it, people love watching it, people love playing it, but like it's not a game that like lends itself to an esport in the traditional kind of like tournament sense, that sort of thing. So them even saying like, oh well, we're doing like esports branding and like this is the deal we're trying to cut. It's just like it's so weird. It feels like a cart before the horse kind of situation.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It's like reminds me of Evolve, which is another EA property. Remember when that game came out, they were like pushing it as like the next big esport before the game even came out, and like they were trying to like get like deals cut with teams and stuff. And it's like no one's even played the game.
Wait, they were trying to get Evolve to be an esport?
Evolve was supposed to be like the next big esport. It was like a huge push from them marketing wise before the game even came out.
The like back for the like Left 4 Dead follow up?
Yeah, the asymmetrical, the 1v4 was supposed to be like an esport.
Bro, what? Yeah, like the Left 4
Yeah,
Dead kind of clone.
yeah, yeah.
Was it Left 4 Dead or something else?
It was it was by Turtle Rock, I think.
Turtle Rock,
The company,
yes.
yeah, yeah, the company that did that did Left 4 Dead originally, which
There
they
you
love
go.
to
There
say.
you go. There you go. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's how they marketed it.
Hmm.
But that it's oh, that's so bad. It's so
Yeah,
bad.
it's like esports is a tricky area. It's the kind of thing where, games live and die by just the popularity, by the people who are playing them and how much fun it is. And it's like they're constantly coming and going. It would be like sports or sports. This would be like if someone was trying to make a new like American football every year,
Right.
and being like, here it comes, like the new league, like we're cutting deals, we're making it happen. And people would be like, I already watched like the NFL. Like, why would I ever be interested in this? And it's
Yeah.
like it's a weird market where like people are kind of trying to find what the next big thing is and like trying to create the big thing before they've even made the game in the first place. It's like it's
Yeah.
weird.
It's super strange. And I think it seems like since esports has been less profitable for companies now, I feel like they're trying to force the issue less, but they are gearing themselves more towards trying to create service games as a service shooters, and the
Yeah.
esports is kind of stemming from that.
Yeah, so like, oh, we need to make like this big profit, and like we've budgeted this much for like the esport stuff.
Yeah, unless
When it's
you're
like,
Bungie, or sorry, not Bungie, 343 slash Microsoft, and have the OG esport shooter, well, almost OG esport
yeah,
shooter, uh, and you can't get it to resurge or make a competent service platform at all. But yeah, it is a shame. It's a shame. I hope EA comes around, especially because it doesn't seem like they're going to. But one of the other things too that came out was that it even seemed like they had spent a lot of time and money developing all the skins,
hmm,
which the skins leaked in September. Like all of the teams that they were working with, a lot of the skins for those teams leaked to, and everybody kind of like was that's where this discussion came from originally.
yeah, yeah.
And
They're
it
like,
seems
oh,
like once the
cool,
revenue sharing agreement couldn't be created,
canned
they
them.
just scrapped them, and they're like pretty much done. But they'd rather have a favorable contract that works more towards them than release them and make any money, which
Yeah,
is
than to even put it
so
out there.
strange and so counterproductive
So
and
corporate, man.
so corporate. And they have such a hand, from my understanding, they have such a hand in the Apex esports realm compared to something like Nintendo, who has like almost no hand in like Smash Ultimate, that they're kind of relying on you to make a living off of this.
Yeah,
Plus it's marketing for your game. It's like if the NBA like didn't want to pay their players or something. It's like super weird. I don't get it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess you could say in some ways it's similar to I don't follow college sports at all, but like there was the thing with where people were making a push that like college athletes could make more money off of like their being used in like advertisements and stuff like that, or like they couldn't at all before, or something like that.
Yeah, they recently
Um,
changed it so that college athletes can actually get brand deals, and it's kind
yeah,
of shaking up like it's like immediately causing athletes to like sign, like commit to schools based on the deals that they're getting, which I don't think was the intended effect.
that's America, man.
Yeah, I mean, I
Let's
don't blame them at
go.
all. I don't blame
Land
them
of
at all.
opportunity.
But it's
Yeah,
it's so funny how it just instantly became this kind of like
all about the
minor
money.
league, who has the bigger market, who
Yeah,
what schools can make the bigger brand deals. It just immediately became it immediately went from hooray, these poor college kids who most will never become professional can make some money in college, while they're there, and use that to, to support themselves and their families, to like uber capitalism, like on day one, like
Yeah.
just
Make the most money.
decimating the college landscape. It's really funny. But I am glad that the athletes are getting money. Like,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, who gives a shit about? I mean, I love college sports. I went to a big basketball school, but I'd much rather have these kids get money for
Get paid while
themselves and their
they're putting their
talent,
bodies on the line,
and they're bringing so much money to their schools that I'd much rather have the side effect of like the college landscape becoming a mini pro sports market versus them not seeing money. So whatever.
Yeah. I mean, bottom line, that's kind of how I feel about the esports thing too. It's like, people are putting in the work and they're playing the game and making it happen. Then like, I want to see them get paid. I want to
And
see
they're
them
putting
do well.
in serious work. It's not like I
They're not
don't
just
think people realize
goofing
like
around. Yeah.
these dudes and gals, they practice like 8 to 10 hours a day of like aim training and reflexing and like
Legit.
And it's
I couldn't do it. It's hard work.
It's really hard.
Work. I can't even play an aim trainer for more than like 5 minutes.
Yeah, no,
I've tried.
It's insane. They put in a lot of work, and it's not physical, traditional, expending your body, but you're certainly like draining your brain, your mental. That type of dedication
there's
the dedication
injuries,
in that sense is the same
for sure.
Yeah.
Pay him, EA.
Honestly, EA, fucking pay him. Let go.
Yeah, pay him up.
So one of the last things I want to talk about here, I think we have one or two more, is
what a quote.
Yes. Phil Spencer did an interview this week. I actually just listened to it right before we started recording. It's really wild. It's really, really wild. Phil Spencer essentially came out and said two things. He said, there's no world where Starfield is so good people sell their PlayStations and move to Xbox. He also said, quote, just making great games won't change Xbox console market share. That's like, there's a lot of things that like frustrate me about this.
Yeah.
I actually, let me just play a brief, let's see if we can just play a brief clip from this podcast, because it is interesting. It is interesting, and I will say he gave a fantastic interview.
We're not in the business of out-consoling Sony or out-consoling Nintendo. There isn't really a great solution or win for us. And I know that will upset a ton of people, but it's just the truth of the matter is that when you're...
What if we live to 100?
Great.
I don't want to outlive my life.
15-second ad.
15-second ad.
In certain cases, very, very discrete focus on doing deals and other things that will that kind of make being Xbox hard for us as a team. That's on us, not on anybody else. Our vision is that everybody who's on console has to feel like they have a great experience and they're a first-class citizen. They've invested a ton in our platform. But we are not in a position, and I see it out there. I see commentary that if you just build great games, everything would turn around. It's just not true. That if we,
it drives me crazy.
What a bottom line, man! It's like a definitive. You are saying that he's saying that with no room for an argument or a comeback. He's just saying like that's the way it is, and everybody knows it. I know it. You know it. Everybody knows it, and it's like. What a change of narrative from like any period of time in this industry at all. Like it feels like an argument coming 100% from the back foot, and it's like, yeah. I don't know if I agree.
I don't agree at all. I just watched the full interview right before we started recording. I will say he gave a fantastic interview overall. Mm-hmm. Like I forgot how likable Phil Spencer is. He's super likable guy. He's very 100% the right person to be in his position. Mm-hmm. You should listen to this. It was really good for the most part. He takes a lot of responsibility. He says a lot of things that some of it I agree with, some I don't. And some of it is just kind of like, well, why didn't you do what you're talking about? Where he takes a lot of responsibility for Redfall. And he blames himself in a lot of ways he says he blames himself in a lot of ways for the things that happened. the state it was released in, but it's you saw the product. You saw the product. Why would you?
The buck
There's
has
no
to stop with
surprise
someone.
there.
Yeah.
There's no surprise.
Yeah.
But essentially, this is towards the end of the interview. He says that Xbox cannot. They're not trying to out console the PlayStation. What he means by that is that they're not trying to gain market share of console shares, and that essentially goes on to say that Starfield won't be good. No matter how good Starfield is, it's not going to cause people to buy more Xboxes and increase their market share of that space, which Sony reportedly has about 70% of the console market share. And Phil Spencer says that a lot of these things are because we're in the digital age. People, it's about consistency now across generations, where people have their digital libraries in one place and they don't want to break that consistency. And I actually do I agree with that a little bit. I do think that is definitely a part of it. But I don't think Phil even believes what he's saying. If I'm being honest, I think he's trying to justify how they put an investment in their services as opposed to an investment in just creating really awesome games. Because I think if you look at PlayStation, you see, how did they get that such a big gap in the market share? It's because they consistently put out good games.
Games,
and most of them are first party exclusives. Regularly.
That take advantage of the hardware. It's like you would never see, he's saying, great games aren't going to like move hardware. Like that's not even really our goal, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, of course that's coming from someone who isn't necessarily producing a ton of great games. Like
right.
I don't think you would ever hear someone at Sony right now in any position saying like, we're not doing well because of our games. They would never say like,
right.
It doesn't really matter if we're putting out good games or not. Like, we're doing other things well. It's like, that's the whole reason, like that. So it's this weird thing of like, I think you're only making that argument. Like if Xbox was dropping banger after banger, like that would be a selling point. Like they would be pumping that massively.
Right,
it's just the fact that for whatever reason, through their management, their acquisitions, their nurturing of companies, like studios under them, like somehow they're just not producing very many good to great games. And like, that's just a fact of the matter. So you're going to have to spin it. You're going to have to spin that in some kind of either positive or at least neutral way, which I think is what he's trying to do. And it's like, it's the video game industry. Like you gotta make good games.
You gotta make good games.
That's what has sold consoles since the 1970s. And that's what's going to keep selling them. It's like,
I know. I 100% agree. And I think he's right when he says, no matter how good Starfield is, people aren't going to sell their PlayStations and buy Xbox. He's 100% correct. But like, from one good game, that's not going to happen. From consistency, absolutely that could happen. I see. I have people messaging me. I've talked to a couple people this week alone who even said, just from Final Fantasy 16, they're like, I'm actually thinking about getting a PlayStation just for that. People will buy a console for one game. It's the reason I bought my first Xbox was for Halo 3. You know what I mean? But the 360 was my first Xbox that I owned, and it was because Halo 3 was so enticing that I was like a freshman in high school, and I said, "Screw it! I'm using every dollar I have to buy this 360." There is an enticement there with exclusives when they are so consistently promising that that not only will your one game that you're buying the console for be good, but that that the publisher will keep delivering.
There's more coming. There's more coming.
Pipeline. And for a long time, there was more coming, and I stuck with Xbox. I missed PlayStation 3 entirely.
Yeah.
But then, oh my God, what happened? God of War 2018 looked so good that I switched from Xbox to PlayStation. Wow, it's almost like good games sell consoles, Phil. I bought a goddamn PS4 Pro for God of War.
Yeah, I'm in the position where, again, like I'm a PC gamer. So like, and Xbox has said basically at this point, they're going to put everything on PC as well. So for me, the console isn't necessarily a thing, but if I were literally only thinking between Xbox and PlayStation, and like from right now on, PlayStation suddenly stopped releasing like first party titles, or like they did, but they all kind of sucked.
Yeah.
And Xbox suddenly dropped a great one like every a couple of times a year. I've had a PlayStation for a long time. I would consider switching to the next one, depending, because it's like if I felt like the next 10 years Xbox was going to be dropping absolute bangers and PlayStation wasn't, I would be playing on my Xbox. It's as simple as that. It's like I want good games and I want to feel like I'm in an ecosystem where those games are being nurtured and consistently released.
Yeah.
To take advantage of the hardware, take advantage of the social features, all that kind of thing. And it's like, to me, it's as simple as that. And I totally understand the argument they're making for like the pure market share, pushing services instead. I totally get that. And I think that is smart. I think that's what's keeping them in the game right now. But it's like, what the ridiculousness of the statement. It's just like such a bad soundbite, I think, of saying like, no, great games aren't going to move the needle. And it's like, that's the only needle.
The needle. The
that
needle
is the needle.
Is the games, dummy.
Yeah, Phil, you goof. You goofball.
But he gives a great interview here. I think everyone should go listen to it. It's really good. He's just, like I said, he's so likable. He said some things that like I just don't agree with at all, like that.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens. It just makes me nervous that like Xbox will eventually give up on games. He even references like the online talk about people saying, "Oh, will Microsoft fold Xbox?" Like, blah, blah. He acknowledges that he sees all this conversation.
Yeah.
But they have a showcase in June. That showcase has to be a banger.
Now
that showcase
some cool
is
stuff.
A must bang. It really is, though. It really is.
Yeah. Hashtag must bang.
Yeah. Put on the
shirt.
I
mean, they've got a lot of they've bought some studios. They got some cool stuff. Like, show us it.
At this point, cool. They can get away with even just like announcing games with like overt, vague, ominous, cool title art.
Yeah.
To give us, I mean, they can do 2 or 3 of those. Show an update on Fable.
Fable. Oh my god, I forgot. Where's Fable? Yeah.
Show some Starfield gameplay. Like I think the bar is so low. I don't think they have to do much. People just want to know that they're even making stuff because it just doesn't even feel like they are.
That's the thing. Like, yeah, that's a really good point. I think that kind of touches on the main issue for me. Is like, regardless of what is out right now, what's coming. Like, I know Sony's studios are making games. I know that they're making a bunch of stuff right now, and I don't even need to necessarily know the names of them or what teams are doing it. I know that they're coming.
Right.
Whereas with Xbox, I'm like, are they making games? I don't know. Like, they bought some studios that were making games, and they all finished those. But like, I don't know. I'm not really sure.
It's crazy. It's really crazy. Like, besides Starfield, I don't know. I mean, Starfield and Fable, but Fable feels like one of those things where it's like 5 years away.
Yeah, I mean, that's been in the works for a while. They announced that teaser. God, I don't even know, like 2 years ago at this point.
Fable could be vaporware. Like, I legit have no idea. I don't even know who's working on it. I have no clue.
I don't either. And I love Fable. I love that franchise. That was a system seller for the Xbox 360. Like, come on. Keep them coming. Like, that should be. They have great IPs. They have really good IPs. We need to see more of them, and they need to be good.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I know it for sure. And lastly, which I know this is something that you actually mentioned to me, just moving on from the Xbox stuff, was that Unity laid off about 600 employees last week, 8% of its workforce. And funny enough, I didn't see this really being covered very much at all within like the gaming publication sphere.
Yeah.
Like, I only knew about it because you told me about it, and when I looked it up, like I can only find stuff on like CNBC.
I think that it got a bit overshadowed by, there's a bunch of crazy stuff going on right now in the world and in let alone in the industry. But this is so interesting. Like, companies have layoffs. It happens. But it is part of the trend of the tech industry. Right, yeah, it's part of the trend. But like, 8%, that's nothing to scoff at for anything. 8% of your entire workforce. And Unity is in such a interesting position in the market. We're seeing this market of, the big engines, the big game engines, which is almost like a console war in and of itself, with, Unreal, Unity. Those are the two big ones that people can kind of like get licenses for. And it's like the competition and the way that's shifting around, and Unity has made some weird statements. Like the CEO who's just in the photo of the article there, he made some weird comments a little while back that he kind of walked back of like, oh, like we're thinking of things from a revenue first perspective, and like any developer, he basically said like any developer that doesn't prioritize making the most money from their game is like a dumbass, basically. Like they're an idiot.
I'm pretty sure he quote unquote said any developer who's not focused on monetizing their games is a fucking idiot.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure he said quote unquote fucking idiot.
Yeah, and it's like that in line with them shifting some of their team stuff around, shifting the direction of their company, and then big layoffs is like, I don't know. I just thought that was interesting because like Unreal is eating everybody's lunch right now with great tech. Like they're doing an amazing job with that, but Unity has always been in a lot of ways kind of like the scrappy underdog. Some of our most beloved underdog. It's a multi-million-dollar company, but in the industry, so many beloved indie games got off the ground because of Unity being like the more accessible, the more small teams focused engine that you could utilize. And it's interesting to see them kind of shifting. Just, I don't know. It's like that corporate, that money, like the dollar signs, rather than like, how can we make the best software for people to use that's going to make their jobs easier? It's more like, how do we make the most money, and how do we allow other people to make the most money?
Yeah,
it's like money, which is all just, it feels like so much of the industry is going that direction.
Unity is like the scarier version of I don't know what's scary, Unity or Unreal, because like Unity is way less of a powerhouse, but seems like if they ever reached powerhouse potential, they would just be absolutely fucking miserable to have ingrained everywhere.
Yeah, especially with the folks in charge.
Exactly. Where Unreal is like, they are a powerhouse, but to date, they haven't like been insanely egregious about their positioning yet in the gaming industry. And I am a little scared with the amount of power and ingrainment they have in everything. Like, feels like all games are just Unreal now. And that
especially
interview,
the current gen ones.
Yeah, the current gen ones. In that interview, actually, Phil Spencer even talks a little bit about how Redfall is Unreal, and like how that was giving that team a bunch of problems with the optimization. And
it's tough.
And we talked about that last week. Like, pre-made engines are definitely leading to more and more optimization issues, especially for teams that aren't experienced with it. Mm-hmm. And he said that they had to bring in teams from the Coalition and from Rare to actually work with Arcane to get this 60 FPS finalized. And they just said that they needed to have that plan in place last fall. So that's just a little side note, but it's interesting. And so Unreal has kind of taken the place of like this console powerhouse or console PC game powerhouse, where I pulled up a really interesting stat earlier when I was just looking up stuff. Unity actually makes up 60% of AR and VR content, and 50% of mobile games are made with Unity 3D. That's crazy.
That is really interesting. Like that's their wheelhouse, their market share that they're pushing. And I don't hate companies trying to make more money. Like, I understand why they're doing what they're doing, and it's smart, it's savvy, it's good to have a company that's producing a product that will aid people in those specific markets. If you're making a mobile game, if you're making a VR game, especially, because that's a tough business to make money in right now. That's very cool. But like we've said before, anybody that has that much market share of like one particular branch, it's always a little worrying, because they can kind of start to get away with a lot more, I think, when there isn't as much competition. So
100%. And it's scary that he's kind of has this tone, their CEO has this tone already, when they're not even
it's like, all we care about is making money, baby.
Making money. Yeah. Show me the money.
Yeah, show me the money.
It's scary, but we'll see. Hopefully Unity doesn't like grow too big for their britches. Like, I think it is good that VR has does have at least one engine where people can make a lot of different types of experiences, at least. But hopefully it doesn't. I don't know. They just scare me. The Unity guy just scares me. He's like the boogeyman.
I know, he's a strange, scary guy.
He's a scary man.
I Googled a photo of him after I read that statement of him, calling developers fucking idiots. And then like the photo that came up, it's like the most CEO picture I've ever seen in my life. It like looks like if you looked in a textbook for like CEO guy.
he's laid off thousands of people throughout his career every time wearing a Patagonia.
100%. Yeah, 100%. It's like that man is just like he was birthed from a CEO, factory.
Yeah,
and just put right in the job.
Do you think like this kind of stuff is a sign of the success of Unreal, and kind of its struggle to compete, or do you think it's just kind of in line with the tech industry and how things have been? A lot of big tech companies,
I think
overexerted themselves, especially during the pandemic, and
it's probably a bit of both.
Reeling back.
I think it's a bit of both. I'd be curious to look at the overall stats for like Unity versus other engines like over the last 10 to 15 years. Because I know Unity has never been the big like AAA, console engine that people go to in the way that like Unreal kind of has been on and off. I think they've always kind of had the indie scene. I think that this is... I also wonder like when they went public, or like, when the finances kind of started to shift around too, because this stuff feels to me more like a company that was providing a very specific service to a smaller, maybe less profitable branch of the industry that suddenly decided that they needed like a shift of like purely money making, like they brought in new people or cycling people out to be like, okay, we need to start like, bumping these numbers up. We need to grow. Yeah. We need to grow, that kind of thing. More rather than like, oh crap, like now we're on the back foot. We're getting whooped by, Unreal. Like we have to make changes. I think they were more like just, capitalism taking over and being like, all right, we've got a niche here. Let's try to find ways to like, get those numbers up. That's my sense of it.
They're locked firm in that VR world. And if they're bet on VR, if Unity's bet on VR hits, they're gonna skyrocket.
Yeah. Where's the CMA coming in to say,
Oh yeah,
the Country Music Awards? No, yeah, the UK industry to say, hey, VR, you've got a
too much cloud gaming
monopoly, on the VR cloud gaming.
We don't have any cloud tech. No, you're cloud gaming. Shut down.
Everything is cloud gaming to the CMA. It's like everything is Fortnite to the Olympic Committee.
Yep, dude, that's so weird. But yeah, no, a lot of interesting stuff happening. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Unity. Yeah. That guy scares the absolute shit out of me. He really does.
Yeah, this is going to be a big weekend. We're all going to be playing Zelda. Can't wait to hear everybody's thoughts on it. Internet's going to be blowing up. We'll probably be talking about it a lot next week.
I'm in a dead heat. I'm in like a dead heat race to finish my second playthrough of Metroid Dread. So I showed this at the beginning, but I set this up last week, and to inaugurate it, I decided to just turn on Metroid Dread just to I was like, let me do like an hour or two of Metroid Dread just to see the nice new screen. And now it's like 7.5 hours later, and it's like almost my second playthrough on hard mode's almost complete. And I took the opportunity to sequence break a bunch of shit, and I one-shot Kraid. It's dude, that game's really fun. I love that game.
Yeah, and that goes back to what we were saying about the beauty of the Switch hardware and the hybrid kind of thing, is that like that really good streamlined handheld hardware, you can pick up a game like that and like lose that much time to it so comfortably.
It's really I know easily, it's been a busy like week so far, but I'll finish work, pick it up, go sit on the couch for an hour, play it, put it back in the dock,
hour turns to 2, turns to 3.
Yeah. Play it on the monitor for an hour. It's great. They can't scrap that. Yeah. But dude,
please don't copyright strike us.
What are you playing?
Finishing up a replay of Resident Evil Village. I've been playing all of the modern Resident Evils back to back. Didn't even plan on doing that. Just wound up being in the mood for it.
Are you going to do the DLC this time?
Yeah, I want to. I'm going to see if I can get it done before Tears comes out. Yeah, I'm coming into the final chapter of Village, and then I'll probably try and bang that out, and then be ready for maybe have a few hours of my life between. Yeah. what stupid.
You can't have another Heisenberg in America.
I know, one is too many.
Jesse.
Yeah, I might have a Mother Miranda. Ethan Winters.
Jesse, why is the mold blue?
Oh my god. Yeah, and then finish that up, and then maybe just sit there and stare at a wall until Zelda comes out.
Till tears. Oh, I'll be streaming it tomorrow. So, we'll see everybody in a new world where Tears of the Kingdom finally exist next week.
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy.
It's gonna be crazy. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah.
But yeah, I gotta head out. I gotta get this Metroid Dread playthrough done.
The priorities.
Dude,
No food, no nothing, no
good luck with
sustenance,
Village.
just a Metroid. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Appreciate you. I appreciate everybody.
And everybody, you can find Welsh on Twitter at SeanWelshBrown. You can find myself on Twitch and Twitter at NoBananaSuits, and you can find everything related to us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok at SRankPod.
SRankPod.
That's it. Don't wear it out.
No, we don't have a website though.
Not yet.
We do have a
We
link
should.
tree, but
We 100% should.
oh, we should. Oh, there we go.
Future
We should have an
project.
interactive game advertising, make an ARG with Unity.
With Unity. MTX.
S Rank the game.
And if we don't MTX it, we're fucking idiots.
Yeah, there you go. For $5, you can get more of the episode.
That's just called Patreon. See you next week. Peace.
See you later.